temporary relief is not healing. When you temporarily relieve yourself, it's like indulging in some sort of vice whenever you feel down or you feel just not in the best mood or whatever the case is in that sort. So it kind of becomes a cycle because it's like you have a wound and you slap a Band-Aid on it instead of like trying to actually fix it, and then that's a temporary relief, and then it feels good. Let's say you smoke, let's say you touch yourself or whatever it is, drink something like that, some sort of vice that is kind of controlling you, and you just slap the Band-Aid on, and then what happens with the Band-Aid is obviously at some point it's gonna fall off, and then once it falls off, you just do it again. You slap another one on. You get lonely again, you get bored again, whatever it is, you get upset or something like that again, and in the same cycle you just kind of do it again, and then Band-Aid falls off and you do it again and again and again, and just like a constant cycle. And the only way to really fix something like that would be to, instead of just throwing a Band-Aid on it, you actually heal it, you fix it, you actually fix the source of the problem instead of just trying to like mask it and hide it until it comes back. Temporarily relieving yourself until it shows up again, usually stronger than it was before. I noticed that on my abstaining journey, very much so. That's what kind of allowed me to conceptualize that pretty clearly, where, especially towards the beginning, I would feel like, oh man, I just need to get this rest in. Let me just, you know what I mean? And then I could sleep. And then I realized it wouldn't help me sleep. Or even if it did, I was like, damn, like I didn't want to do that. Because, I noticed the benefits of abstaining from pointless, lustful indulgence. And I just remember realizing at a certain point, like, it's gonna suck really bad. I mentioned this in, I think, 2 videos ago. I'm pretty sure, where I was just like, you make yourself suffer so you can prevent way worse suffering. And I feel like that's a perfect example of that. This is kind of an additional message towards what that one was. So what happens is, if you never escape that cycle, you think that that's the only way to heal yourself, is by giving in to that indulgence that gives you temporary relief. So you think, you kind of condition your mind to think, okay, anytime I ever feel bad, I'm just going to give into a vice, and then I'll feel better temporarily. And then once I feel bad again, I'll just give into the vice again, and it's an addiction, a lot. I didn't realize it was an addiction until I really started to think about it when I was, doing that so much, because that was just almost like a coping mechanism that, your mind ends up creating, because you don't allow yourself to escape that. And so once you decide, all right, let me not slap a Band-Aid on anymore, let me actually try to do something about this in the long term, then that's when, like I said, it'll suck for a while. And that's usually when people revert back to, okay, this is never going to work, because they're not being, I guess, patient enough, which is understandable. But, you have to be like extremely patient and just wait it out until, because it's like the withdrawal phase, where that's almost even more proof that's an addiction, because it's literally having withdrawals of not, whatever, giving into the whatever it is, smoking or giving into lustful things or whatever. And that's what makes you feel so bad, because you're literally feeling withdrawals. But like with any addiction, if you get past that withdrawal phase and you pass that threshold, then you get to the point where now you're not addicted anymore, and that's when you feel way better. And that's when you realize, that's also the point where you realize, wow, that was actually an addiction that had control of my life for so long. So yeah.